Hello guys, I hope you're excited about VYKAS being released. This is my guide for the VYKAS raid. If you enjoyed running it blind with your friends, feel free to ignore this video. Let's get to it. Unlike Valton, VYKAS normal and hard are different. Hard has additional critical wipe mechanics and normal patterns. So the video will cover both difficulties, but I will mark the scene differently, that it will appear only on hard. Normal will require eye level to be 1430 and 1460 for hard mode. If you're interested in build requirements, feel free to visit my other videos to learn more about it. This video will cover VYKAS raid first gate Morphe. Legion raids have health bars, and majority of the gimmicks will be determined by HP percentages, so it's good to remember the important lines. Morphe's important HP lines are 55 for the first split, 45 Orb gimmick, 34-36-ish for Stagger, 30 for second split, and 13.5 for Orb gimmick, and 5 mini Berserk mode. Special tip is you should equally distribute your party's strengths among first party and second party because they will be split off and fight different bosses. It's kinda like Argo's second phase. Legion raids also have an Esther gauge. The raid leader can use by pressing Ctrl Z, X, or C. These are strategically used to go through harsh mechanics. Be sure to use them at the right times. Esther Ninari does massive damage, Esther Wade does huge stagger, and Esther Nana provides huge shield with CC immune, healing at the end tick to the party. Battle items like Whirlwind Grenade and Time Stop are highly recommended here. I will go over the major mechanics step by step, then go over the normal patterns afterwards, and the proper uses of Esther's skills at the very end. Feel free to skip the later section in the video if you're not interested in the normal patterns. With that being said, let's get to it. Before the fight, make sure to position yourself on the corners, 11, 1, 5, 7 o'clock. As everyone noticed, these positions are fairly common in raids. You can also notice them as X and plus positions. Think of the positions as your area of coverage throughout the whole fight. You can determine them by party numbers or pre-decide them as Korean pugs do. To give you a little tip, from my experience, sometimes 5 and 11 o'clock position starts the blue orb, so I usually place newbies on that position when I do the school parties for the first orb mechanic. At the start of the fight, Morphe won't do anything special until about line 55, where he will teleport to the center to start his mechanic. As I've been saying in my past videos, all Lostark bosses always teleport to the center before any major gimmicks. So when you see boss teleport to the middle, always be on guard for special patterns to happen. Parties will be split off to different dimensions, to lust and pleasure. Let's call it this way because I don't know the official terms yet because it's not released. Lust side will be purple and pleasure side will be the same color scheme as the beginning. The normal patterns of the boss is very similar, but lust zones warning symbols will be inverted as if they're safe zones instead of damage zones, like the red warning symbols in the pleasure dimension. In a special note, Esther is usually kept in party lead on the Lust Purple zone due to Morphe being much stronger compared to the Pleasure zone. He will do much more damage. Just like Argo's Phase 2, there will be mechanics that will require communication between two parties. It is crucial to communicate between the teams to determine the safe zones from the potential wipe attacks. As said before, Lust Dimension does not have special mechanics, so they need to put his HP down to 30 to go to the next phase. However, since it has no special gimmicks, he will hurt so much more, where squishy classes will usually die in one hit on item level. The Pleasure Dimension will have two mechanics before reaching to line 30. Around 45, there will be the first color orb gimmick where you will need to stand in X position. You can predetermine this position in the beginning or use ×3 + 1 your party numbers. Morphe will teleport to the middle and create a white magic circle. You will need to stand inside the circle or you will die from the initial blast. After the explosion, orbs and colored gates will spawn on each X position. If you happen to stand on top of the spawn, you may actually take the orb immediately, so you have to watch out. So make sure to stay a little bit away from the orb spawn point. The orb will rotate colors: red, blue, green, white, black, to red again and repeat. If you cannot memorize this color, you can actually rename your pet to remind yourself. I used this trick to help some of my school parties in the past. You will need to kite the orbs accordingly to place the orbs into corresponding colored gates. For example, if 11 o'clock position gate is white, the player that is taking care of the 11 o'clock will need to kite the orb into the gate when the orb is white. The colors rotate total 2 times, so you can take your time a little bit. If you place the wrong color in, the color gate will explode and do tons of damage to you. If you happen to take the orb by accident, nothing will happen. If 2 people fail to do this gimmick, Morphe will cause a wipe AoE attack. You can actually time stop this in normal, but hard mode is a guaranteed wipe. To go over some small tips, most people fail this mechanic due to them being nervous while kiting the orb, because they collide with other players. You can prevent this by predetermining kiting paths before the game starts, or use center space as much as you can. People tend to be scared to go to the middle, but Morphe is actually flying, so he won't do anything to you. After the first mechanic, Morphe will do another gimmick around 36.5 lines. Make sure to be observant when he's teleporting into the middle. This mechanic will start as Morphe doing a stagger check. If you fail this stagger check, it is a guaranteed wipe, so make sure to use your whirlwind bombs and overwhelm runes if your party is lacking stagger. Another tip is to make sure you start your stagger after you see the orange bar. If you succeed the stagger, you will randomly be distributed with black or blue orbs above your head. This mechanic will require you to stand in X position again according to your color. You have enough time, so do not panic. Players with black orbs on their head needs to be in 1 or 7 o'clock position, where blue orbs need to be in 11 and 5 o'clock position. Afterwards, Morphe will do a pattern similar to Simon Says. It will show everyone where the orbs will spawn to absorb. You will need to block all the orbs Morphe is trying to gather up. Players with corresponding color orb will need to block the orb's path. If you happen to fail the Simon Says, Morphe will proceed to do a wipe AoE attack. Exact number is not determined yet, but normal tend to be okay missing 1 or 2. This wipe attack can be cheesed with time stop or normal only. Hard mode is a guaranteed wipe. If you succeed the Simon Says, Morphe will cast a large red warning sign either for inside safe or outside safe. The party's job is to tell the lust side party where the safe spot is, because lust side's Morphe will do the exact same pattern without warning signs. Afterwards, the party can proceed to cut Morphe's lines to 30 lines. If both parties reach line 30, the party's placements will switch dimensions. At the start of the switch, just like Seto fight in Ora Pravasa, he will use an explosion, so it's smarter to hog the wall first to not get hit by his initial explosion attack. From this point on, lust side is the same thing. Unless special positional mechanic is told by the pleasure dimension party, you will need to drop his HP to 0. Around 25 lines in the pleasure dimension, Morphe will cast a spell that it will create various magic circles on the plus positions 1, 3, 6, and 9. You will notice one of them will glow white. That is the safe spot for the lust dimension explosion. The specific pattern on the lust side will have all circles black, so the pleasure dimension will need to let them know where the safe side is. Also, when this mechanic starts, Morphe takes reduced damage, so during all mechanics, you should not focus on doing DPS and focus on doing the mechanic. Then at 13.5 lines, he'll do a black-blue Simon Says pattern once more. It's the exact same pattern. Make sure you tell the wipe AoE patterns afterwards, if rather it's inside safe or outside safe. Afterwards, around 8 to 5 lines for both dimensions, this is a semi-berserk phase. All his patterns increase in speed and damage, so be on guard for this phase change. There are no additional mechanics from this point. And those of you who are doing hard mode for VYKAS, there is one more random mechanic Morphe will do throughout the raid. This is a very dangerous pattern that causes multiple wipes. Be sure to be keen on this mechanic. First, Morphe will teleport to the middle. Second, if not any other special pattern, he will create a giant inside safe explosion. You must stay inside. Third, after the explosion, it will spawn orbs corresponding to your position. It will spawn right under your feet. So it is important to stay at the predetermined design X position and don't eat the orb right away. Fourth, the orb will slowly follow you. You will need to get far away from the center from Morphe because there will be an electric field close to him that will kill you instantly. Everyone needs to be in positions where everyone has enough space to maneuver. Fifth, if you take the orb, you will start a Velganos pizza pattern. Keep an eye on the initial tornado. It will show if the pizza will rotate clockwise or counterclockwise. Sixth, if you successfully finish the 4 pizza explosions, you will get a shield that will block Morphe's next AoE attack. This mechanism actually takes a little bit of practice to master because people tend to panic and take orbs at the wrong time and wrong position. It is crucial to dodge the initial explosion first, slowly maneuver outside to check your orbs, and kite the orbs into a safe position in the corner to check the Velganos pizza. If you happen to fail the mechanic though, supports can actually use their Awakening plus Rhapsody Light or Gossip Law to lower the damage intake because it's not a guaranteed kill damage. Time stop works as well, but Morphe's second AoE explosion takes a little bit longer. Be sure to press the time step a little bit earlier so that you can take the hit with invincibility. Let's go over the normal patterns now. Feel free to skip this section if you're planning to learn them blind. Both Morphe from Lust and Pleasure Dimension have similar patterns. They just have inverted warning zones. Lines combo. Morphe will spawn 2 clones side by side and fire a laser. Pleasure Dimension will teleport front. Lust will teleport behind the aggro player. They will cast a series of warning line attacks. Afterwards, he will charge and fire an AoE attack in a cone. Pleasure Dimension is back safe, and Lust Dimension is front safe. If you get hit by this, make sure your HP is almost full. Most people die from this attack. Since this pattern takes the longest in animation, experienced people tend to land most of his DPS at this pattern, so be keen on this normal pattern. Kick to dash. Morphe will raise his feet and dash front. Afterwards, Pizza AoE will be casted. It is back safe on Pleasure Dimension and front safe for Lust. Roundhouse kick. Morphe will charge and prepare to do a 270-degree kick. Lust Dimension's version is easier to dodge due to position barely changing after choosing an aggro. But Pleasure Dimension's version tend to select aggro player a little later, so you may see him spin around a little bit, so you gotta watch out. This particular kick is really strong, so you must dodge at all costs. Also for Lust Dimension's pattern, he combos it with a series of boomerang. This can turn into a damage pool, so you must watch out afterwards. It usually combos you and kills you in one hit. Jabs to dash. Morphe will choose an aggro and punch twice while dashing. If his body shines, he will jump upwards and create a cross-shaped explosion. Since it might be hard to catch this additional pattern, it is easier to think there will be a cross-shaped explosion every time. Front back wave. Morphe will choose an aggro and proceed to do a scratch wave. The wave will go in front of him in a long pizza, then come backwards behind them like a wave. In Pleasure Dimension, Morphe will do this wave twice on position, but Lust Dimension's pattern will have him teleport around to the aggro before doing a second wave attack. It is crucial for the initial aggro player to not move too much. Hitmaster classes tend to DPS a lot here due to this pattern being dangerous for entropy classes, the front and back head. Chain Destruction Fist. Morphe will smash the ground like Scrapper's Chain Destruction Fist skills. Watch your feet and keep moving. Afterwards, it will be either inside safe or outside safe. As for Lust Dimension, the purple warning side is safe. Be sure to not get confused. Good tip is to stay close enough to Morphe to be prepared for both safe spots with little maneuver skills, because there will be 3 explosions down your feet and then it will be selected with the inside-outside safe. Normal dash. Morphe will dash towards an aggro player, then he'll spawn clones sideways in a Pleasure Dimension and vertical clones in Lust Dimension. These clones will do a lot of damage, so watch out. Jump to land. Morphe will jump out of sight. After a series of explosions under your feet, he will land in one of the aggro players. Make sure to save your spacebar for the end. Spike Projectile. Morphe will raise his hand with a laughter. He will shoot series of spikes out. Pleasure Dimension needs to dodge the spike and proceed to stand far outside. Lust Dimension requires you to be close into the purple warning zone after dodging the spikes. Sometimes you get hit by multiple spikes, so don't be greedy in your DPS during this pattern. Donut Explosion. Morphe won't be targetable here. This is one of the most annoying patterns people will hate. He will create a large multiple donut like a target sign with noticeable safe spots. He will land explosion under your head about 4 times. The explosion can actually push you away from the donut safe zone. Since the outside explosion hurt much more, do not panic and focus to move at a timely manner to dodge the explosion. Instead of moving in a large clockwise formation, it is better to move back and forth to control the blast to give more space to your teammates. Here's some of the additional tips for the Esther skills. Normally you use Esther Ninabe for Gate 1. Reason being is Way is good for stagger mechanic, but it is easily doable with 4 players alive for any of the stagger mechanics. As for Inanna, there are no real patterns that you need to use to prevent wipes. Also can be replaced with time stops too. Therefore, Ninabe with the highest damage potential is the only helpful Esther for this whole fight. It is actually easier to land Ninabe than Thyrane because her arrow fires once, and Thyrane requires both blasts to hit. Ninabes often provide a party where Lust Dimension Morphe is. Reasoning is because 1. Pleasure Dimension is easier to do DPS. 2. At the start you have taken some HP off of Pleasure Dimension's Morphe, but when other party is sent to Lust Dimension, Morphe from that dimension has full HP, where it makes 2 of them have imbalanced HP bars. Since it's much harder to shave off Morphe's HP from the Lust Dimension, they use Ninabe's Esther skill to balance the HPs together. Here are some of the recommended patterns you can use your Ninabe. Lines combo. This is where most people land their Ninabe. It's because it has the longest animation. After you see him teleport, he's going to do the lines and then he's going to do the pizza. So within that time, you can just fire Ninabe anytime. Chain Destruction Fist. When he starts this pattern, the animation is really long, so it usually hits. Roundhouse Kick. This animation is also very long, so when you see him dabbing twice and then getting ready for the Roundhouse Kick, you can use the Ninabe as well. Front Back Wave. When he teleports for the second wave, use it immediately. There are also timings after major mechanics like Inside-Outside Explosion or Velganos pattern, but you must know the exact timing. Don't panic when it's ready to fire. Use it during a safe normal pattern, because you won't be using the Esther skill a lot during the whole fight anyways. With that being said, this covers the whole video. VYKAS raid requires a lot of teamwork. You can't have people dying as well due to the majority of the mechanics requiring full party to proceed properly. Normal mode can be skipped through time stops, but hard mode won't be as forgiving if people die during the raid. Good luck everyone, and as always, thanks guys, bye!